Today on the show, we're going to give you our overall impressions of the brand new update to Cyberpunk 2077. Let's go! Hey everybody, welcome to Xbox A. I'm Matt, that's Court. Court, ready to talk a little Cyberpunk, my friend?
Yes, I've noticed that you were very plaid today.
Hey, it's all Canada, you know.
Yeah. So yes, we have both played. I am now 10 hours and 47 minutes.
Congratulations.
Into patch 1.5 on Cyberpunk 2077. I played it originally for a couple hours on my PS5.
Yep.
Right after launch, not too long. It crashed so many times that I could no longer play the game, so I uninstalled it. Later on, during the holidays, I was able to grab another copy on Xbox, and I've been waiting for this patch. How about you?
I got it day one when it came out because of the hoopla and the hype, and obviously heard about some of the issues it was having on that launch day. Played several hours of it regardless when it originally came out, and then unfortunately I had to uninstall it and wait, and I literally waited until I know we've seen patches and updates along the way. I had been waiting like you. I'm like, okay, the giant update for the consoles is out, and let's give it a shot now. So now it's kind of a redo. So at least for both of us, we get a little bit of different perspectives when it comes to the game of like playing through day one versus what we have today. But first up, let's talk about graphics. Court, overall impressions with the new update splash. We both played on our Series X consoles. We're both playing on I played on my OLED. Did you?
Yeah, I played on the OLED.
Yeah, obviously. So overall impressions of your graphics.
I tried on with ray tracing and without ray tracing.
Yep.
I don't know. It's funny. I was watching Xbox Drive this morning, and Sean Capri gave his impressions, and now I'm gonna have the exact same sentence. I don't think I need ray tracing in my video games if it takes away from my frames per second.
Really?
I am become a huge frame per second person. And that's a good thing. I can't. I know people say that they'll play the graphics modes. I just can't. As soon as I can get that frames per second on that screen, I want it. My monitor can hold it. My TV can hold it. I don't notice that big of a difference. Like, cool. Like, yeah, my puddles look better. There was an area I even saw comparison videos online. It looked great. It does. It looks great.
The reflections
with ray tracing
and dynamic detail in there, it's great.
But I find anytime you went into a section where there was a firefight or you were driving, it got clunky real quick. So I stuck to 60 frames per second on it. I felt that portion of the game, it looked beautiful. Night City looked beautiful. Character animations,
hit and miss.
Hit and miss, yes. I did find that extremely better from the original.
100%. Same with you. I thought walking through Night City, day or night, gorgeous. And same as you, I switched between both. I actually spent more time having into the fidelity mode, so having the ray tracing turned on because I really wanted to boost my TV and I wanted to see what it could really do. And I flipped between both, but I agree with you. I think putting the frames up helps when you're getting into driving and you're getting into shooting, especially because I did notice it would start to dip. It looked gorgeous though, and definitely an update. NPCs, just how everybody is moving around in the world, it all looked a lot better. Talk to me about sound and sound design, because we've got things from like the soundtracks that you have, music, dialogue, all of that. What were your impressions of sound?
Soundtrack when you're in the cars, unbelievable. Sound of the world, also very well done. I was playing it like I do a lot of times. I put my headset on and I get the Dolby Atmos going around. I think that is phenomenal on almost all video games. So I like the spatial audio. I know the PlayStation has it as well. It doesn't have Dolby Atmos, but it's spatial audio. They have it in both. I think that gives you better immersion in the game, especially in the with Jackie and you're there. Spoiler alert! There, I won't say it. You're in a building and you're hiding in a wall.
Yeah.
And when you can hear the footsteps and you can hear stuff going on, it was very cool. That point, the audio grabs you, and more video games that are next gen. I find that the audio is making the world become alive.
Same for me. I thought going through like different clubs and you're going to different moment to moment, especially when I'm walking through different clubs in different areas and you're hearing different sounds from music or just the dialogue and just the spatial audio. Same as you, I'm using my Astro A50s hooked up to my X, and I sound like a snob. And I got, but I have the Dolby Atmos going in my headset as well.
I use my Xbox headset.
Not a boy. And it does sound really fantastic, and I think they did a really good job. I don't remember there being such an issue in the first round. I'm sure I'm wrong, but when I initially played it, I thought it sounded really good as well. I did want to talk about the mechanics, and we've got a ton of updates, like when it comes to maps and the layouts and everything. We'll talk about that in a second, but I did want to dive into this a little bit. Mechanics, specifically walking, movement around in the world, driving, and shooting. So talk to me about the mechanics and your impressions, Cord, of how it all kind of felt.
Here's where the game I personally didn't, it wasn't for me. I felt it very floaty when I was shooting. I partway through the game I decided I was only just going to use the samurai sword because I just didn't want to even shoot a gun. It just was easier and you could just mow through everybody with the sword. I'm once again, I was playing on easy. I play all my games on easy.
Same
so
here.
if you're watching something, that's just the way I play my games. It is what it is. I wasn't a fan of it, and also the driving I wasn't a fan of. I like the fact that I could get out and I could see on top, but I felt the driving mechanic wasn't that good. It's like we've played games like GTA, or even the fact that I was just playing a game like Horizon, which I understand it's a driving game. I shouldn't be comparing it, but I have to. Like
You're in a car.
In my mind. That was the last car I drove. I just didn't feel like it was good is the only way to describe it.
So
I wasn't a fan.
To interject there, just with the driving specifically, I remember driving in the day one of the game, and it was very light, flimsy, and glitchy. The difference that I noticed, anyways, is that driving this time around, while it still has a lot of improvements needed, it was heavier. The cars felt more weighted, and I wasn't just kind of like flying around like just into aimlessly. Like I could actually make some good turns and go around, but I agree the driving mechanics were not that strong.
No, it was lacking is the word I would like to use. It was the one thing, like we'll get into the story because I truly did enjoy that portion. This was the one part of the game that took me out, and I know they made a choice to go on first person here. And I even said to you, I don't know what it is about my story-driven games.
Your Assassin's Creed and all of that, you want that switch to third person.
And that's just my personal preference.
Yeah.
I wish that it was a third-person view.
So
I wish
there
was cutscenes. I wish there was cutscenes.
Yeah.
Like at the very beginning of the game, they do this cutscene where they show you Night City and they have that the cool music and they have that narration. I was like, wow. And I just watched it again as I was uploading footage for us to talk about this, and I was like, oh, that part, like I was so hooked on this game in the prologue, oddly enough. And then when one of your best friends or a character that you're close to in the game is no longer with you, and you get this new character played by Keanu Reeves, I'm like the only one where I was like, I don't care. Like I felt like I'm like, I've seen the movie Ghost, and I don't need this thing continuing to talk to me. I don't know what it is, and I know a lot of people really liked it. I can't believe I'm going to say this because I really like Keanu Reeves. I just thought his voice acting wasn't
his portrayal
the best.
in this wasn't really. Yeah,
I don't know.
Didn't hit.
Johnny Silverhands is a name I didn't even like. Like there was a lot, and I don't know why. And I'm nitpicking here, and I shouldn't. But I really liked the prologue. I liked everything that was leading up to it, and then when I got into it,
finally
I'm like,
opened up into that and that part, and you're just like, oh. And I'm with you.
And I tried.
I'm with you when it comes to character and not having the switch between the toggling even between first and third person, because I think of even like recently with Far Cry. And Far Cry, at least, it's all first person, but then you get into the camps in those areas, and then it pulls out, and you can see Danny, and you have that. So you feel like you're a little bit more connected. And that's what was missing to me, because Cyberpunk is so much about the custom creation and your character creation, the way you want to make your V, and all of that, and you don't get to experience it. And I'm like, it's all about
when you go up, look in a mirror, right?
Yeah, and the redesigns that they did there were great. I love that I can go into into your house, your apartments and everything, and switch stuff and change out V a lot, and it's a lot easier and snappier than before. But yeah, to not be able to toggle between that, it's nitpicking, but it pulls me out of that. The last thing I'll say is just with the shooting mechanics here. This like you're like, I just started using a sword, man. I'm like, I don't like the shooting mechanics, especially early on. You're going through a warehouse, you're going through specific areas where you're trying to clear it out. And the amount of times I died, and I'm on easy, and yes, Matt's not great at video games either, but the floatiness to the weapons, especially after the patch, I thought they were going to fix that. It's better. Um, it just didn't work for me. I could not get my pistol to do a correct shot where I felt like this is moving way too much. I need to upgrade my arsenal, obviously, later in the game. But even still, it was way too much floatiness and movement where I'm like, I can't take cover and I'm just getting hit. And still, bullet sponging I found was an issue too against the AI.
And I can't. It's weird because I liked it the very first time I did it, and then as more I did it, those brain dances, I was just like, I don't want to
Yeah,
do
I'll do
these.
that.
I a very cool idea. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the timing. I said to you before, I'm having a hard time getting into a game right now. I've gone back into Assassin's Creed, and now I'm like, okay, I feel good again. But I was like in a rut, and unfortunately, I started playing this game in a rut. So, am I going to go back and try and play it again? And I probably will. I need to just get back into the mindset, but it was just I don't know what it was where I was so into this game. I thought it was great the first couple hours into it, and then when it went off into this other direction, I'm like, I don't know, man. It felt a lot like Avengers. I said to you where I truly like that game.
Yeah,
And then when it started like going into this multiplayer tutorial through the story, I
it
was like,
broke it.
it broke it for me. And Cyberpunk did the same. It was like right at the very beginning after the prologue, you're sitting there in a diner and you're talking to
Yep.
a character, and the NPC behind him was going like this, back and forth, like it was lost, and it was driving me nuts. If that was a cutscene, it would have been all great. I understand they're giving you these stories and you can pick your direction, but I almost felt like me asking questions or it didn't change anything and wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So when I saw this NPC going back and forth, I was like getting annoyed. I'm just like, ah.
That's
Like
the thing.
I would love a cutscene there.
Let's talk about that then. The story elements and not having to go beat for beat or anything, but story impressions. This was the one thing with this game that didn't work for me playing it. I do like some games where I'm getting those choices. However, if there's no, like you're talking about, if there is no real consequence or impact to if I'm choosing this or to change a relationship here or there, I just want to go. And this game, I think, because of the quality that's put into it, because it's gorgeous, it really could have used cutscenes. And there are moments when you are going through and you're like, this is clearly a cutscene for like 8 seconds. It looked great. And I was like, could you just walk me through this, please? Because the moment to moment dialogue, sitting in a chair, getting stuff upgraded, or talking to different characters in the world, I am just like, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. And that's me. That's on me because I'm sure it's going to give you ton more backstory and make it feel more alive and immersed that way. But for me, it wasn't feeling like it was consequential. So I really just was like, next, so I can get to the mission. What about you? What did you think of the story?
Well, like I said, with the prologue, I was there. It was like I was hanging on every word that Jackie said. I was having conversations with different characters. And then after it, I was just like, huh? There was even a scene where you're in a nightclub and you have some characters come up to you. It's at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that could have been a very cool cutscene where there was like a little bit of a skirmish and instead I had this like janky NPC that was, once again, every time I'm having these conversations, it was like an NPC in the background that I couldn't get my eye off. And while I was in the club, the NPC was just shaking its head over and over. I'm like, oh, come on. Like, it's just such a bunch of characters. I just felt could be more fleshed out of it and more immersion, and I just didn't have it. And that, like I said, that could be just for me right now while I'm playing. Sometimes I just can't get into a game that other people thoroughly enjoy. I'm not saying this is a bad game
No.
by any means. I'm just saying the game just ended up being not for me right now, and I'll jump back in again.
Same. I want to jump back into it when it kind of like the mood strikes me because the world's interesting and there's players and people we know in the community that are like, I've played like 100 hours of this and I absolutely loved it. I'm like, that's awesome that it can do that. And for others and like myself, I'm kind of indifferent with it and it's like it's just not hitting right now. And there's too many, for me, there's too many barriers when it comes to like having me kind of get more immersed into it, like we're saying. Gunplay mechanics, driving, and the story elements of just having to do more dialogue choices. isn't hitting for me right now. The last thing I'll say on this for our impressions court is comparing day one to now. Is it a drastic update for players going into this? Absolutely. Things like the map getting redesigned, the changes to your character for V that you can do. There's a lot that they have done here and a lot of care and attention to turn this game around. So if it is for players their first time and they're like, you know what, I can get this game and should I jump into it? You can get lost in it. And there's so much there. And it vastly improved from where they were on day one. Like I don't have the clipping and the jank that we experienced before. So it's in a solid state. And I think it's worth
this is
players
the game
picking up.
it should have been released.
100%. They gave themselves like an extra year. They released this. And I think it's definitely worth players to pick up. But it's just, there's a lot in there that's just not hidden for me. Let us know in the comments below, what did you think of Cyberpunk 2077? I want to thank the team over at Terminals for providing me a code so that I can do this for the review. Court himself, actually, he has purchased the whole game. So we do want to thank the team, though, for supporting Xbox A. But let us know, is Cyberpunk 2077 worth buying for you? And what were your impressions of it? Let us know. Take care. See ya.